Regular meeting of the Board of Education for Wednesday, August 14, 2024. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A reading of the mission statement. We are committed to academic achievement and success for all students in a safe environment. In partnership with families and our community, our mission is to promote confidence, inspire a passion for learning, and to prepare our students to become responsible global citizens. Is there a motion for the approval of revised agenda?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any questions or comments for interested citizens? There are none, and there are no updates as well. Okay, and then I will turn it over to Dr. Hassler for the presentation on
School safety and educational climate.
that.
Okay, thank you to the Board of Ed for the opportunity to present tonight. Just a kind of a quick overview of the purpose behind this presentation. Commissioner Regulation 100.2 requires all school districts to annually report violent and disruptive incidents to state ed that occurs within the time frame of one school year. There was recently an update. We've been doing this for many, many years, but there was recently an update where we actually had to change board policy last year, policy 7555, which now requires the school district to present the data to the board following the submission of the data to the state education department. So the data that was submitted to state ed was for the 23-24 school year. That gets submitted, it gets aggregated, and then it gets submitted to state ed at the end of July. So this is the Board of Ed meeting following the submission of that data. If you typed in NYSED SSEC into Google, it would bring you to the link for state ed that talks about school safety and educational climate and the data that is collected. Basically, there are 11 different categories that we are required to submit data on. I'll talk about those categories in a moment. The data that is submitted, some of those data points are publicly accessible on state ed. As of this morning, they have not released the 22-23 data yet, so the only data that's up there, if you go to the state ed website, dates back to the 21-22 school year. The only thing that they report are the number of incidents in each of those 11 categories. However, if you go to that website, it also gives you the actual form that the schools have to complete of the data that we have to enter, and that includes various things like number of student offenders, number of student victims, consequences that are assigned to those students, whether or not law enforcement is involved in each of these different situations depending upon the category. I'm not going to speak about all of those things because not all of those data points are publicly accessible information. The only thing that is publicly accessible, which I will be presenting on tonight, are the number of incidents in those 11 categories. And the reason why the rest of the data is not available is because it may be able to be traced back to students' personally identifiable information. Sometimes there's only one incident in a particular category, and if we reported information that is ultimately submitted to state ed on the number of offenders or the number of victims or the consequences that are given, it could potentially be traced back to individual students. So I'll only be presenting the publicly accessible data points that will be available eventually on the state ed website. Any questions on that?
I do.
Sure.
The things that are reported, the types, for instance, like the drugs,
Yep.
whatever, are the types of drugs that you're finding accessible or information that will be published?
No, it is only, one of the things that's also available if you go to that actual state ed website is a glossary of terms, and it gives you the very specific criteria that the incident has to meet in order to rise to the threshold of reportable. And so the things that you're going to hear me speak about tonight are the things that fall within that category. Related to drugs, though, I can tell you that if a student is found, with any sort of various drug, paraphernalia, that's usually something that falls within that category, and law enforcement is involved. It starts to get a little bit ambiguous with some of the other categories. DASA, for example, is one of the categories. The only incidents that actually are reported are if a family makes a complaint or a student makes a complaint about a possible DASA incident. We investigate that situation, but it's only reported if it's a founded DASA incident. It's not the number of complaints, it's the number of founded DASA incidents. So, sometimes people are like, oh, the numbers, I know that there was X number of incidents, but they may have been reports of that, but after the investigation, it may not have been deemed as founded. So, any other questions?
So our numbers on the use possession side is pretty significant.
Yep.
Which I know you didn't get there yet.
Yep.
But because we were talking about
Yep.
drug possession, are you finding it's a lot of vaping, vape pens?
Cannabis.
Yes.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
So if you go back to the mid-August presentation that I did last year, this was the data that I presented in August of 2023 for the 22-23 school year. And again, these are the 11 categories. We have to report it by each of the 7 buildings as well as any district-wide incidents. Incidents that may have occurred across multiple buildings or for students that may be in alternate placements. But again, this is the data that was presented at last year's presentation. If you go on the State Ed website, I looked literally a few hours before this presentation. They still don't even have the 22-23 data up there, but you can access the 21-22 data, and you would see every single school district in the entire state and their results for each of these 11 categories. So these were the results the number of incidents that I reported last year, and these were the number of incidents that I reported this year. What I did something a little different than last year's presentation. I just kind of put a note in there. Green is a reduction of incidents from the previous year. Red is either a new incident that was reported or an increase in that particular category. And I know I was asked about, it seems like some of the areas went down, other areas went up, and we saw a lot of interesting things happening in terms of our various reported incidents over the course of the last few years and coming out of COVID. But I think, speaking to Mr. Ciriello's point, I think that the one that jumps out at us certainly most is the category of use, possession, and sale of drugs. And I can say to you that we attribute that exclusively to the legalization of cannabis. The accessibility of it, the sophistication in terms of how the various forms that it exists. In fact, I was in preparation for this, I was doing a little bit of research on my own, and the Times-Herald-Record had an article in March talking about the number of emergency room calls increasing in recent years as a result of cannabis. They had the Upstate Center for Poison Control reported the number of poisoning incidents on the increase as a result of the legalization of cannabis. It is just much more widely accessible, and unfortunately, it is falling into the hands of our kids.
Can I just jump in and just say that the New York State Department of Health wrote an article about vaping is at an epidemic proportion amongst our young people.
So are we learning from this data and applying it to severity of punishments or some kind of preventative programs? What are we doing with this data?
Yeah, I mean, the code of conduct is very clear about this, where if you're found in possession of drugs, distributing drugs, any drug paraphernalia, the code of conduct is very clear about the consequences. It's out of school suspension. Kids are referred directly to law enforcement. However, we do have, I can say, another challenge with this because of this increase. The resources that are available to get support for families, I don't believe, this is just my personal opinion, I don't believe is as easily accessible in order to be able to keep up with these types of trends. We're finding that, when we catch kids doing a variety of different things, we work really hard to try to, aside from just the consequence, getting kids into various programs or whatever, it's really, really hard finding seats in various programs and getting kids in. A lot of times there's a wait list. We'll often try to, make arrangements for kids to get various types of drug counseling and things like that. It is really, really hard to, find the level of supports out there in order to be able to combat the increases that we're seeing.
But the
Sure, we're not the only district that's going.
Of course.
No,
Yeah.
but the recidivism rate is very high, right? So the same student who we suspend, so some of the things that we've done, or the high school has done, is when we meet a student who's been caught for the first time, we would offer them teen intervene. So if you go to this program, we won't, your suspension will be 5 days, I'm just gonna use that number, rather than maybe 30 days. Because what we're seeing is that you can suspend students, send them home, and guess what they're gonna be doing at home?
Getting high.
They're going to be doing the same thing. So we work very hard with trying to get, the parents to be on board with us so that we don't have to do this, and getting the child help. But I think our biggest issue is finding that help for our kids. There just isn't enough county services to provide that help for the number of students. Because again, we're not the only school district. There are multiple school districts where the children, this is the same issue. It is an epidemic. And you talked about vaping. It's not just vaping, right? It's gummies. And unfortunately, sometimes children will get their hands on gummies and they don't really know the strength of it. And so students end up going to the hospital because of the effects that it has on their bodies.
So I'm sorry.
And I know you talked about the policies being very clear on drug use and drug possession, but have you found, or is there data or demographic information that we can find that points to the fact that the misconception of it's a legal substance now, so I'm able to have it legally, doesn't equate to the fact that, yeah, you may be able to have it legally, but just not at school?
And also not at your age.
Right,
Correct.
right. And that's part of the reason why every single
That's a
case
big
is
thing.
referred to law enforcement for that exact reason. But I think similar to what Mrs. Rodriguez was saying, I think education is a huge piece of this. I mean, one of the things that we spoke about, I think it was in the spring, January, February, we had the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council of Orange County here because we work with them to apply for a grant where we have a full-time prevention specialist that started with us this spring to help us try to start to address some of these areas. And it's being addressed sort of two-front, where one of the things that Zeb, there was an article on the website, we met him here, he pushes into health classes and does presentations, does student assemblies, but he also does on not just, his title is a prevention specialist, he works on the prevention side, but he's also an interventionist where he will assist us with some of the programs like Teen Intervene and things like that in order, in the event that kids have, been identified as having an issue, he will work with us in order to be able to support that student. But it's a work in progress.
What are we doing in the preventative side?
Yeah, I mean, I think education is a really, really big one. I think, and, this is a goal of the DLC for next year, because
That's what I was
aside from everything else, when we had our student engagement committee in the springtime, this vaping, not even just vaping from, with the use of drugs, just vaping in general is a huge, huge concern. And that's coming from our kids. And I think that it needs to be something that I think we even get more global about our stance on that. It can't just be sort of this one-time presentation and I say, it's a problem, and then we just sort of go back to our work, where it needs to be something that is a more strategic, organized emphasis that happens on the part of the school districts.
And another thing that students are doing, because I get to see students who get sent to the superintendent, sometimes I see them. And some of the things that some of the students are saying is that they have anxiety. And so if they don't have access to medication, they self-medicate.
Self-medicate, yep.
So they're able to smoke some pot and come to school and feel like they're okay. And what we try to explain is, well, that's illegal, you can't do that. But they'll come back and say, well, I don't have access to a doctor to get this medication. So there are other, factors that lead students to.
Why don't they have the access to the doctor?
They have no insurance.
They have no insurance, therefore you
Many
can't
reasons.
see a doctor, or,
No family support to get
correct.
that,
I mean,
to
yeah.
get that appointment.
Okay, that's a different discussion about the state insurance is available to children without any issues.
I think there's also that stigma around being medicated that a lot of families are just not on board with. So there is a lack of
Yes.
support for, you may need anxiety or depression medication, but your parents won't be supportive of you getting it. And I do think that there is, at certain ages, a requirement for parental consent for that. So it may not only be an insurance issue, because you're right, at a certain age, state aid insurance is available, but if your parents is not going to take you, then you're not going to be able to get it.
So,
Quick question, to better target our response to this, I know that these are the 11 categories and they're predefined, are we able to kind of tease out what's cannabis? Because we tease out alcohol, and I imagine there's
Yep.
some data on tobacco, which isn't reflected here, but are we able to kind of tease out cannabis and pull
Yeah,
those numbers aside?
we can, I mean, we can tease it out. I don't have the exact data points, but I can say that the vast majority were cannabis. Yeah.
so are we educating the kids from a standpoint of cannabis is bad or alcohol is bad? Or are we actually showing them the data that says you continue to vape, you will get A, B, C, and D?
Well, I mean, I will tell you, health class is one of the main areas where those conversations occur. And a few years ago, one of the reasons why we increased, the state requires half a credit of health to graduate high school. And it can happen anywhere between grades 9 through 12. And one of the things that we felt a few years ago was that one-time sort of half a credit semester course that kids can take anytime during the time frame of high school does not fully get them the level of awareness that they may need. And we made the decision to increase it to kids needing a full credit of health in order to be able to graduate. They take a semester of health, 9th grade, 10th grade. They take a semester of health, 11th grade, 12th grade, to hopefully confront that, just so that way, you could have a student who takes health in 9th grade or 10th grade and then doesn't walk into a health class again for the remainder of the school year. And
I mean, the way the risk management works, for example, with what I do, is that you continue to take these classes every single year. So if kids need credits, can we create content, website content, or you're mandated before the start of the school year to complete a certain module or number of modules that will educate you on the new data, implications, risks, and everything else that's happening around this particular field. I mean, we all have to do it.
Yeah.
Why can't we do this on a student level?
yeah, we can. we
In
can look at it.
addition to health classes, that sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, we can.
Can you
Look into
elaborate
that.
a little bit more on the law enforcement piece of it, that you said that each case is referred to law enforcement? What's happening on that end?
I mean, I think it depends on the case. Possession could range from anything from an empty vaping cartridge to, bags of marijuana or whatever. But I think, fortunately, many of the cases that we deal with is sort of smaller scale, which usually law enforcement will rely on the intervention that's done by the school district to do that. Every once in a while, you might get something that may rise to the level of it truly being illegal. But I think oftentimes law enforcement will. Yeah.
Single use.
Right.
It's mostly single use.
Right.
We have had students that have gotten in trouble for not being single use, and those students have been referred.
But then also, distribution is another layer of
Right.
that. There's a difference between you're in the bathroom, you get caught, and you're found, and then, they allow us to sort of intervene. But on the distribution side, that's
That's
when
different.
Is there a way to take that data point out? Because, they're putting it all in the same category.
Yep.
And there is a huge difference between somebody that's perhaps trying vaping once in the bathroom
Right.
and somebody who's sale of drugs.
Yep.
So, and to that point, when it is at that degree, times have changed.
Yep.
So if I'm not mistaken, what happened years and years ago on the law enforcement side is not necessarily happening now
Right.
because those laws have changed.
Right.
Which I think is the part that I'm just a little confused about, because even though the law itself has changed, these are still underage individuals on school property that are engaging in the activity. So
Right.
I guess I'm just questioning why the differentiation sometimes as to what the consequences are.
Yeah. I don't know, I can't really speak to
No, I know.
that end. I
Right.
can, I know that for us, we sort of step in as much as we can. And for us, according to the code of conduct, I mean, it starts to get into the, usually the kids get multiple days worth of suspension. Depending upon the severity, it'll elevate to a superintendent hearing, and then it'll be determined if it's a longer, a longer process than that. But,
Unfortunately, right now, it's the wild, wild west, because there was a place in the Walmart Plaza where there was a camper selling stuff, and you didn't buy that, you bought a chapstick for $20 and got a bag with it. And when you call the police, they say there's nothing they can do.
They actually just did a crackdown on it in Orange County, which, I mean, as a parent, you're happy to see. But the truth of it is that as soon as they left, and again, I have kids, so you go into these locations, including 2 of the locations that were on the list that recently just got fines or whatever it was, the consequence was for the store that was selling it. That's what they do. You go in and you buy a $10 sticker or a $20 chapstick, and then you're getting the product. So they're finding ways around it, and even if they're getting that fine on a Monday, chances are by Wednesday, they're back doing what they were doing. So perhaps the fines aren't enough. I
Or the
don't know,
laws are
but
written wrong. I mean,
something.
The laws are written
It's
to say.
just, so as great as it is that
They're
even
probably
within
making
Orange
more
County.
profit than they are the fine.
Right. As great as it is that Orange County is attempting to do something, spoken from somebody who has kids at her house every single weekend, it's not helping. Because within a couple of days, they're going back to these same establishments, and a workaround is, I guess you're not buying a gummy, you're buying a sticker.
Well, that's the loophole that.
Right.
And I
law
think for us,
created.
Right.
what that trickles down to is what I started out with, which is the sophistication and the accessibility is the greatest issue for us. That, it's not just the kid who goes into a bathroom and lights up a joint and you smell it and you know what's going on. When you start to talk about edibles and all of the various other things, that their capacity to be able to conceal it, it is very, very, very difficult to.
But I think that's the
Chase and
point
track
to
down.
everybody that's already said it, is preventatively, what more
Yep.
can we be doing? I mean, I don't disagree with the health class opportunity, but I'd also agree with Sergey that.
Is there
we
something
should be
annually that
doing
we could do for
something.
every student? Yeah.
I mean, almost every
We all-
court, every
I have to
something,
take
right?
an opioid abuse course
Yeah.
every single year.
Yeah.
Well, what is the prevention specialist's role?
Yeah, I
Where are
mean,
they focused?
and it's interesting that you say that. I literally just had a conversation with Karen Jordan to sort of debrief with the prevention specialist is K-12, but really his time is focused predominantly on the middle school and the high school. And we actually are scheduling a meeting because he was only with us part-time, at the
Maybe we
end
do
of the
start a
school
little
year.
earlier then and be preventative in the primary.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's I think revisiting the role, because I don't know if you remember when Mary Alice Kovach was here from ADAC. She had said, I think that there's like 6 or 8 other school districts that have a similar program. So we're going to circle back with them on like what are other school districts finding that, rather than just having it be chasing down, what are some of the preventative things that they're finding effective that we can certainly, capitalize on as well.
Well, another point is that if there are a lot of children that complain about anxiety, unaddressed, undiagnosed anxiety disorders, is there a survey monkey that we could do? We don't have to identify them.
Don't we do the survey, the youth?
We do, that's every, and that's the state. The Orange County Youth Bureau does like a statewide survey of, and it covers a lot of different adolescent-related
Are we
issues.
asking
Yeah.
our children to report
Through that survey,
through that survey
yes.
their own issues?
Yeah.
Because if we do have a significant issue with anxiety and psychological disorders that lead to that overuse of drugs, perhaps we should be doing something else as far as the.
well, what do they do with that data?
So we actually get a copy of, we get our own individual results, but then there's a statewide database where, our health teachers actually, the health curriculum is designed based upon the responses in there. And again, it's not just related to drug use. It's emotion. It is relationships. It is, a lot of different topics that are embedded into that are covered within the health
Because that
classes.
has more implication than just drug use. That has more implication on quality of education received and just overall emotional well-being of children.
Right, and the irony is, one of the biggest successes, I mean, vaping is really only been something within recent years. I mean, even when I started in this job, we had administered that survey. One of sort of the accolades that came out of that survey was smoking. Like in the early 2000s, they pointed to, you know, pre-vaping, how smoking was way just cigarette smoke, nicotine smoke was on a significant decline, and it was, you know, they were talking about how it was education combined with obviously sanctions on the part of the government and taxes and things like that, but you know, that was a great success. And I think, you know, another piece of it is, I think alcohol is on the decline, but we're seeing that now replaced with, if you're talking about self-medication, the cannabis is on a sharp increase. So alcohol is down, cannabis is way up.
And I think
Right.
just as a district, and just to the superintendent's point, if it's, you're gonna get a suspension and you're gonna go home and you're gonna be at home doing the same thing that you got suspended for, maybe the penalties that we're looking at in terms of just our district policies need to be a deterrent. Because if getting suspended and getting to chill at home for 5 days as a teen, that is not a deterrent for anything. Maybe it's, you get caught and you get a suspension, you have to go to a intervention program.
Yeah.
You have to go to some thing that you definitely don't want to do.
Yeah.
So it will deter you from wanting to be.
We double your homework.
But we do
Yeah.
that, right?
Well, and what we do is we actually, we
we do
incentivize
that,
that. It actually, I think, we can't require them to go, but we incentivize them in order to go to a program.
And I
Why
think
at
part,
this point can't we require it, especially for repeat offenders? I mean, it goes back to, you know, to the point like Sergey is saying, for individuals, I'm sure, Elsie, if you have an individual who's in your office and, again, first-time offender and truly anxious and having issues but doesn't have access, I'm sure one of the first things that we're doing is offering them the opportunity of, well, how do you get insurance? How do you find a doctor who's going to be able to help you? Why is it that if we're especially having repeat offenders in the same scenario, so I'm not saying that their anxiety doesn't exist, but I'm also saying, are they using that as a crutch, and because they know that they're going to get away with it? I mean, I'm all for being deterrent and stuff, but then at some point in time, we do have to have consequences to these actions.
Right.
And I genuinely do think that sometimes when you have, you know, if the four of us are sitting here and we all got busted for doing something, I could probably bet that these other four individuals aren't going to do the same thing if they knew about it and they knew the consequences, et cetera. I mean, it is part of society that you're not going to necessarily do something if you know that there's going to be something as the consequence.
Yeah, I think that there's a variety of different factors. I think accessibility is a big one.
Could the consequence be loss of privileges? I mean, have we considered that, rather than an out-of-school
we
suspension?
have Kelly over there looking, she's shaking her head, yes, right? Yes.
All right, you can't go to the prom, you can't attend the function,
that-
you can't do this.
That's a yes.
That exists?
That exists. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And I think the other factor that we're not talking about is the collaboration with parents, right? Oftentimes when students are suspended, they have to come with a parent. And that gives us an opportunity to talk to the parents about what's going on. The high school is really proactive in that they bring a team in. Sometimes we'll have a social worker, we'll have a parent, if this parent doesn't speak the language, we'll bring an interpreter, just to make sure that we are kind of looking at this more holistically, like what's going on at home, why is this happening? So I think that's been an improvement for us, and that's really been what we've been trying, because again, we see the same students over and over again. Nothing is happening, except that the child continues to do drugs. And we know that the trend is it's going to get worse. So I think that we have been looking at, really taking a look at how we can address this in a way that it is going to change the behavior.
But maybe we need something a little bit more focused, like a committee, a vaping committee, or something that's directly going to look at different pathways for that.
Agreed.
Like right now, it's just like a global
Yeah.
overview of what's
And I
going on.
think we have that up. The high school has the drug coalition. What is the,
Monroe-Woodbury Community Coalition.
Yeah.
Which does focus on this.
Yep.
And this is a county problem. There's a webinar that Mary Alice from ADAC is putting on next Wednesday, specifically revolving around vaping and use of cannabis in schools.
Yeah.
And she invited the school administrators around the county too. So it's a problem.
And you said that this is one of the goals of the DLC
The
this year?
DLC, yep,
District-
yep.
Can you
And
explain?
that actually really was initiated by the kids. You know, our last meeting with the Student Engagement Task Force, You know, and again, the kids weren't even focused exclusively on drug use, like vaping in general, I think was one of their, you know, primary focuses.
You know
Like,
what's interesting is speaking about smokers. Smokers will not smoke when they travel.
Mm.
If you're in the airport, if you're on the plane, so even people with habitual smoking, anxieties, all kinds of problems as adults, do not smoke during certain periods of time where they're not allowed to. So this smoking inside school, to me, yes, you have anxiety, but this is a mischief. This is a misdemeanor.
And
Because you
respectfully,
can-
there's other forms, so.
Right, you can wait.
A smoker will take will do the nicotine gum on the plane, so they'll find something else. So if it's, one thing is harder to do, they'll find another way, and the complexity and the availability
I
here is.
think it's a multifaceted approach, because studies are showing that this is what's causing most of the anxiety and depression. And now, finally, my kids are now grown. I wish I had the data years ago. They're saying you should not give a smartphone to your child till they're 16
Wow.
with social media, and a flip phone up till then for access. That is, the studies are coming out more and more readily on
There
the
are ways
impact.
to restrict the phones, though.
Yep.
If
You
my
can, but they-
grandson has a phone so they
eventually
can
find
track
out.
him,
Yeah.
no.
They
It does
find
not.
ways around it.
Can I go back to years ago
can limit
when
it.
ADAC had
Seriously
come in,
limit
they were doing presentations. I want to say, I know that as board members, we went and saw it during a gym class. I don't know if that's still occurring, but is this something that the presentation that you're getting as administrators, is that something that will at some point trickle down to the students? And can it be something where, again, not every student has health, but correct me if I'm wrong, every student has PE?
yep.
So is that something that we could bring back? Again, I'm assuming
Well,
it was in
I think
PE
that that's
years
one
ago.
of the
That's where
things
we
that,
saw it.
when we dig a little bit deeper into that prevention specialist role, I think that that would be an example of something that I think would be a
Right.
great, and not just, I think somebody had said, not just at the high school, like
Right.
down to the
No,
elementary
yeah.
level,
It
like,
was in middle school.
yeah,
So can we do another check-in in
sure,
a couple of weeks or months or
Yep.
so to see?
no problem.
Where
Yep,
we're
and I think the DLC is usually around October, so that I could probably
So
give
maybe-
about 2 months, we can start, you know, I can check in around that time.
Maybe
and
after
talk
the
about-
DLC and you
Yep.
get your focus and your strategies,
Yep.
you can have another presentation?
Yep,
And I do think we need to acknowledge there was a significant decline in the DASA bullying and, those
Yep.
incidents. Yes, there was an increase on that one
I was
side.
just going to say, now they're smoking pot.
well, I think in looking at, actually,
Because they're smoking.
I can tell you,
Got no anxiety now.
I looked into, I want to take the positive and the negative. I sort of take everything sort of in
That
context.
might be the positive.
I think last year, I think was particularly high, going back and looking at
pun
past
intended.
data. What?
No
pun intended. The DASA cyberbullying and non-cyberbullying incidents were particularly high last year. So I think it was sort of in moderation, particularly high, and then it went down to, particularly low. So, I think these numbers are actually like, yay.
I just think it's good to acknowledge, because sometimes there's the complaints out in the district that we have this violence issue, and it's really not prevalent, and it was, a lot of it was seen across school
Right.
districts coming out of COVID.
And you can also, again, you can look at every single school district in the state, and again, unfortunately, they only have posted up until 21, 22, but, it gives you the enrollment of each of the schools and the number of incidents, so you can look at sort of the ratio of the number of incidents, and again, unfortunately, our high school's got 2,300 kids and change. We do have incidents from time to time
We're
that,
still coming out of a COVID world.
yep,
Yeah, I think the information on the website, based on the Excel sheets that you download, it's from 2015 until 2022. So you could see the variation
Yes.
in categories by county
yep,
over the years. And there is a lot of, excess, I'm not going to use the word high, but the excess in certain categories after COVID, there were spikes when kids
100%.
had to reintegrate into socialization. So I think there is some equity in terms of that, but it's definitely something to pay attention to.
agreed. And again, we yes, this may be a regional, statewide, national issue. I think we don't want to rest our laurels on the fact that, everybody's dealing with this, so whatever. I think we still want to roll up our sleeves and dig into it further, so.
Do we think it's just an increase in volume of usage, Or is there also an increase of what we're doing security-wise, more cameras? Like, we're catching more kids. I find it hard to believe that in the last year, like, this is an increase because of, approvals and, we just weren't catching these kids. I'm
Right.
sure there was at least 62 kids who were doing illegal drugs or some kind of form of what you clarify here.
Yep.
And now we're just catching them.
I can tell you, I think, I don't have the exact data, but I think that a good number of these kids are kids that are actually found under the influence. I think it's usually kids
Not
who-
distribution?
What?
Not distribution?
I mean, there are some distribution, but
But that's not the majority. The majority of the kids are using themselves.
no, but I mean, kids, a good number, I don't know the exact number, but a good number of the kids are kids who are found under the influence, sent to the nurse, and they're identified as
So they're coming in high.
having,
Yes.
or using in school, or, doing something in school or whatever.
But to
That's
Jeff's
that's
point,
the bulk of the cases.
The piece of that data that should really kind of be honed in on a little bit more is how many of those students was their first time, and I said, oh, look, Caitlin, try this, you're gonna love it. And how many of them are doing it consistently
Right.
and are coming before hearings or coming, because again, there's two different things. Because I would say that those that are doing it more readily, it could be because it has become so much more accessible. I mean, they literally can drive to 3 places
Right.
within 5 minutes of the high school and have their hands on it.
For $10.
So, right. So it's,
Cheaper
so is
than
it that
alcohol,
or,
easier
right,
to conceal,
Yeah.
doesn't smell.
Yeah.
right.
And I think one thing we should also think about, Matt just texted me, I don't know why you didn't say it. Sorry.
She puts her on the spot.
Good job, Matt. Aren't you gonna miss that? Did you text me? You didn't send it to me.
But one of the things that he mentioned was the SROs. We have SROs in the school, and,
Yes.
there used to be DARE, and maybe that's one of the things that we can talk about, bringing back DARE program. I mean, that used to be very
The end
important,
of
and,
it, yeah.
yeah, and we have them in the building, and part of, right, Patrick, if I'm correct, part of the work that they can do is teach. So I
They
think that
can
that's,
do prevention.
absolutely, so I think that, good point, Matt.
Or you initiate the MAD program again, which isn't really the drinking piece of it, but I'm sure there's
Right.
some acronym that somebody could come up and you get a bunch of crazy mothers in there, they'll police it.
Well, now it's, I mean, we do still have,
Passionate.
Matt is also,
Passionate.
that is, we have a SAD club after school. I mean, it used to be Students Against Drunk Driving, now it's Students Against Destructive Decisions,
Right.
with the idea of, they talk about emotional well-being, drug use, it's not just drunk
They
driving.
collaborate
any
with
longer.
all these different people that are doing the same thing, the coalition and the DLC and the BLC. I mean,
Yep.
maybe we need like more of a collaboration. Everyone's doing the same thing in different pieces.
Silos,
Let's put it all together.
got it.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Are the extracurriculars linked to a decline in use as far as clubs, sports? Because the busier they are, the less they think about, other stuff.
I don't know that we've drilled down to that data, but we could probably dig into that. You mean like the number of kids? I think that does go into, I think somebody had asked about consequences about kids going to the prom and things like that. There are also consequences for kids who, if you get a long-term suspension or whatever, it impacts your ability to participate in extracurricular
I'm
activities.
just,
and
I'm
that
just
sort of thing.
thinking, from a teenager standpoint, you're gonna come and you're gonna drill into them, hey, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. If they don't consider you to be an authority, they will not listen to you. So someone with an authority is coming them and handing them that particular drug.
Right.
So substituting one for another could be another way to do this. If you're part of some club or you're part of some extracurricular activity where you do have that respect and sort of the family environment, that may be another way of perhaps dealing with some of the anxieties, some social dealing with social awkwardness if people have that, or influence kids' decisions to use drugs.
And there have been incidents where it's also unintentional. I mean, I'm sure I speak for others where I've had conversations with my own kids about, you don't accept anything from anybody, ever, never. Like, You think it's a Skittle or whatever. No, like no gummy bears. You don't
No
take-
brownies, no cookies.
You don't take anything from anybody. That's unfortunately that's sort of the place that we're in now. Like, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. House.
Yep, you got it. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of minutes from July 23, 2024. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And next is approval of evaluation rubric. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Any questions?
Yeah, what is the evaluation rubric?
So the evaluation rubric is the tool that we are going to be using to evaluate the superintendent moving forward.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Second.
Any other questions before we take a second? No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is the approval of tax rolls, tax warrant, and establishment of tax rates for 2024, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Question?
Second.
Sorry, I keep skipping before questions. Any questions? No? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Personnel, Ms. Hawk?
Thank you. I'd like to request approval for the items listed under personnel, and I'd also like to recognize a few people in our audience tonight who are being recommended for positions. Mr. Keith Fedorovich, computer maintenance specialist. Mrs. Jennifer Phillips, public information specialist. You're both new to our district, and I want to welcome you to the MW family pending approval. And I also want to recognize Mr. Jason McElroy, who is being recommended for the interim high school principal position.
Okay, any questions? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then business and financial, Mr. Cahill?
Yes, thank you. I respectfully request approval of the business and financial items 12.1 through 12.7.
Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And committees on special education and preschool special education. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Reports by Board of Education committees. I know it's still early in the school year. Is there any updates from any committee?
Not at this
Tomorrow-
time.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Tomorrow, the Capital Projects Committee will meet. It's really just kind of like an introduction to kind of recap where we're at and get everybody on board. I know that there's 2 board members that won't be able to make it, but Patrick and I thought that it was important to at least get some of the baseline in there. And then we are going to establish our meetings for the year so that we can send those over and hopefully get those presented on the calendar. Everybody kind of gave their availability as to the best days, so we'll try to coordinate that and, based on the calendar, send everything over to be posted.
Will the visitation and capital project task force be working somewhat together?
That's
This year?
as needed, I mean, I don't have,
Yeah,
no.
I concur.
No. I don't have a problem with it, it's just whatever,
Yeah.
whatever
It
stuff
just makes
comes up,
sense
I
this
guess.
year to have, that collaboration
Yeah.
because of the capital project.
I defer to Patrick.
I was going to say, I think
Everybody.
there's some overlap, obviously. Visitation could visit buildings and look at some of the things that we're going to work on or work that's being done. That makes sense, I think, to do that.
And
Okay.
I'm chairing visitation and obviously on that with Stacy, so I think that's easy
Yeah.
enough where we can talk as multiple teams and crosstalk. Stacy and I can crosstalk all this stuff.
Okay.
The Orange County School Board Association, the first meeting for the year is September 4th, so I will be attending that, and I'll report out after.
Okay, and Suzanne, I don't want to, overstep and speak about a policy audit, but Ms. Clark, would you share a little bit about the policy audit that's going to be taking place through the policy committee? I'm sorry to.
No, it's fine. I saw the emails.
Okay. Just a very basic overview of what we're doing to kick off the policy committee.
NYSBA is going to be taking a look at our entire policy manual over the next 2 years, making sure that we have everything that we need to have, making sure that they are all up to date. They will also be renumbering it. That way our policy manual mirrors theirs, so it makes it easier when things come up that we can find them to make the changes that we need to.
So I'm going to use that as a segue. I think for the update on the policy committee is we will be feeding off of their recommendations and scheduling our policy meetings to mirror what they recommend.
And they also will come either virtual or in person a couple times during this process, just to make sure that the committee is aware of all the different changes that they might be making.
You said it's a two-year process.
It's a 2-year process.
Okay. Do they let us know at the end, or do they, along the way? Is there
Along the way,
updates?
they will be updating.
Okay. Great.
Can I ask a clarification question about the Google piece of it, just because I was going to bring it up, but it's probably more appropriate for a public question since the meetings are open to the public. So I have intentions that I'll be here tomorrow with Patrick because it's an in-person technical meeting, open to the public, should anybody desire to come. But are we still eligible to, as long as there is one individual from the committee that can be here in person with typically a director? I know policy is usually run by the superintendent, visitation is either Patrick or Andre with Buildings and Grounds. Are we allowed then that as long as one of the people, whether it be the committee chairperson and or a board member trustee is present, that the other trustees can be Google remote? Is that okay that we're still doing that?
I believe that you
Okay.
have to have a majority of the committee in person in order to allow people to remote in.
Okay, so can we clarify for that? Okay. Got it. So that might not even happen tomorrow, just FYI, everybody, in case anybody who was rushing to the door. We might have to reschedule.
And then, Patrick, we should be setting the audit committee meeting dates soon with Mr. Buffamonte.
Yes, true. We're having the audit a little bit later than usual this year because we have a new audit firm, so it's going to be in September, so we'll do that shortly thereafter.
Okay.
The on-site portion of the audit is early September.
Okay. Anything else? We'll switch it up a little bit and start with Mr. Kravitz for,
Thank you very much. As Lori hires teachers, we look to train them. We're starting with new teacher orientation this coming Monday and Tuesday, which is always exciting. One of the highlights is a district bus tour for our new hires, so they get to see all the buildings that we have. We've continued with our summer curriculum work. This year, one of the major focuses has been the implementation or supporting the implementation of our new reading program, which will hit every building and every teacher come September. And teachers they are good. They are good at what they do. So with that, that's all I have. We'll see you 2 weeks at the next meeting. Oh wait, no, I won't be here at the next meeting. I'm so sorry. I'm moving my son into college on that day, our first and oldest one. So send good vibes to my wife.
Mr. Cahill.
Thank you. So the only thing I wanted to mention, we approved the warrant and the tax resolution at this board meeting, and the tax collection will start on or about September 1st. I just wanted to remind everybody that the levy went up 1.78%, and if you recall, the district goes into 5 towns, and we do something called tax apportionment. So what that means is each of those 5 towns assesses at a different level of assessment, and we have to bring those assessments up to 100% market value, and then we apportion that tax levy. The tax levy, $131,372,374, and that process can be impacted and is impacted by changes in state equalization rates. So, again, the portion of this process we control, the levy went up 1.78%. But I now know the tax rates are going up at sometimes a little bit more than that, sometimes a little bit less. Again, it's a function of this apportionment process we go through. State equalization rates are causing that. Also, changes in local assessments are affecting that. So it's a process, it's confusing, but the only part that we control is 1.78% increase in the levy. Otherwise, there can be variations. Thank you. Hope everyone has a nice evening.
Congratulations, Jason, Jennifer, and Keith. Looking forward to work with you, you two, and even closer with you, Jason, and your team. One of the retirees today, actually, this is the only retiree, John Harrigan. He's been with the district for 28 years. He's the brain behind maintaining the phone system very effectively. So I want to obviously congratulate him and good luck. He maybe will be with us maybe 2 more weeks. We'll see. But that's a big loss to our district. He's been really, really phenomenal in maintaining what we sometimes take it very granted. School messenger update, as I mentioned in the past couple of meetings, we are ready to roll with the school messenger. Behind the scene, we have done a really good job of configuration and bringing the different team members from various school buildings, administrators, the support staff. There will be a letter sending out from a superintendent tomorrow to the community, indicating them how they can opt in for the text message. This is very, very important for parents to understand. This is opt in for the text message, and there will be some steps that there will be some steps on the letter. This also applies to all the staff. This is a new system that we are transitioning to, and based on the FCC regulation, for receiving a text message, everybody has to opt in. The folks who are listed under the Power School, they have to opt in for text message. So more to come. On Monday, we will be sending a text message for parents and staff to alerting them that Tuesday morning, we are opening this school messenger. Officially, it is really open now, but Tuesday, they will also receive another text message. So there are 3 steps in next 3 to 4 days. We're also working with the building administrators to take the advantage of any school communication that goes before the school open, also during the open house, the PTA meetings, any opportunity we get. We want to make sure that all the parents are aware and then have the information of how to opt in for the receiving the text message. If you do not opt in, you will not get that 4 o'clock message or 5 o'clock message that the building might be closed. Just a text message. You will still receive the phone calls and emails. So it's important for us to make sure that we work together as a team within the administrative side, take any opportunity to educate our staff and parents on an ongoing basis for next few months.
And I'm sure social media will
you.
play a part in that as well, because
Yes.
that's where the majority of people will get their information.
Good night.
Are we keeping John's voice on all of the messages in this school district?
No, so that was a requirement for the new person, Cody Walsh. He's working with John for a few months, so it's a big shoes to fill, but Cody has good voice too, and some interesting AV background, so I think we will be in good shape.
Why
John-
don't you use the new superintendent's voice?
There you
Oh,
go. I think that's a
he has
great
very
idea.
nice-
Press 1 for the main office. Press 2 for
no,
the
no,
nurse's
that's not what we're
office.
talking
Press 3 for the.
No, you have a nice voice.
We might take that offer at some point, yes, but not right away.
Whatever it takes for the team.
All right, that's the spirit.
Just a quick thank you to all of the building administrators for their help in gathering all of the data for the SSCC reporting. It's a tedious process, all of the record keeping, and just thank you because it's often multiple phone calls from me about data lining up and things like that. So thank you for the time that goes into that. Congratulations to everybody that was appointed this evening, and congratulations to our summer school grads, which is next Wednesday. For a lot of those kids, it's a summer of a lot of work and preparation to get, to pass those Regents exams and get that course credit. So congratulations to them for seeing it through to the end. And that's it for me. Good night.
Congratulations to all our new hires. We're in a great place staffing-wise and ready to start the new school year. We can still use substitutes in all areas. And don't forget to do your compliance training. Man, sorry.
Yes, please.
So, good evening, everyone. First of all, congratulations to the new appointees. I look forward to working with each of you. I'm happy to say that I work with the cabinet, the Board of Ed, and we've established our goals. And I look forward to rolling those goals out to all the administrators during our upcoming admin retreat. I have had the pleasure of receiving super eval training, so I'm looking forward to implementing that and looking forward to meeting with the Board of Ed President, Vice President, and establishing the expectations and getting those loaded into the system. And I've had several stakeholder meetings, and those have been great. My last meeting, I met with let me get the title right, Director of Food Services. Am I correct? Yes. So I enjoyed that conversation. I met with Director of Buildings and Grounds, Andreas. We talked about some great things there. And we actually met with some of our students today, which was very exciting. And I will put that in writing during my updates to you, but they had a great conversation about the calendar, and how ways we can represent the diversity in terms of holidays within our district. So I look forward to carrying that conversation on with our students. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of those who are now joining us. I want to point out Jennifer, because Jennifer is going to be everywhere in the district, so you will be in every building. She will be working closely with Carol, and I'm excited about this new position because you get to tell our stories. So together you'll do an awesome job. Thank you, Eric, for that presentation. It was very well done. I think this conversation is important, and we should continue to have these conversations. And with that, I want to say everybody have a good couple of weeks.
Thank you. Candace?
I just want to echo everyone's congratulations on all the new appointments. Very exciting. Thank you for the great presentation. I know it's a very complex topic, but I thank everybody in the room for having such a robust discussion. And I'll see everyone in a couple of weeks, so thank you.
I'd like to congratulate our retirees and our new appointees. Jason, congratulations. I'd also like to thank Dr. Hassel for that very informative presentation. It really sparked a very interesting discussion that was very needed. In addition, I'm going to concur with what you said and congratulate all our summer school graduates and wish everyone good luck on Monday and Tuesday's Regents exams. And I hope everybody passes, and I'm looking forward to my upcoming vacation, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night.
I will also mirror the sentiments in terms of congratulations to the folks that get to now wake up every day and decide what they're going to do each and every day. So congratulations on well-deserved retirements. Welcome to a wonderful school district, to all the new appointees. Again, thank you so much for the presentation. I think that conversation is kind of one of the reasons that I sit on this board, is because we want to make the district better for not only the current students, but the students that are coming into those situations. So I appreciate everyone's zeal in terms of wanting to deal with that. I'm also going to be on a very lengthy vacation, and I will miss the next meeting, regrettably. But for anyone who I am not going to see afterwards, like Superintendent Rodriguez, I wish you all the best in your journey, and congratulations to all of the graduates. I will be at graduation next week, though, right before I head off to the airport. So I wish everyone a wonderful rest of the summer and a happy Labor Day, since I will not be here to say that next week. So.
Thank you, Dr. Hassler, for the presentation. Congratulations to the retirees, and welcome to the district for those new employees. Congratulations, Jason, well-deserved. And I wish all the graduates good luck next week, and see you in a few weeks.
Much like everybody's already said, so welcome to our new teammates. Thank you for our teammates who are stepping up into new leadership positions. And thank you to all the staff that chooses to stay here at Monroe-Woodbury. Like, it's a great district, and we appreciate all your hard work. Like, I think that includes everybody, because it truly is a team effort, so.
Everybody had said it so many times already. Congratulations to the appointees, and thank you for the presentation. I agree that this is an important topic, and we should continue to discuss it. Hopefully we'll have some fruitful outcomes from it, and everybody enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you, Dr. Hassel, for the presentation and the robust discussion. Congratulations to the new hires and retirees. Jason, you have a big job ahead of you, and we have every faith that you're going to do a great job there. So good luck, and getting ready for the next year to start. And I also want to congratulate Mr. Buffamonte on his expanded role. I think it's a great opportunity, and I work directly with him on the audit committee, and it's a well-deserved. And with that, I wish everyone a healthy next 2 weeks and safe rest of your summer, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Okay, I also want to thank everybody. I know that the feeling might be that summer is a downtime, but I can see firsthand that it's not, that there's a tremendous amount of work that goes on to get the school year ready. So we appreciate all the work that's being done. And also welcome to all of our new employees here. You're joining a wonderful district. You know, I say it every time, and I mean it every time. And congratulations to Mr. McElroy and everybody that's coming on board. Have a great summer, and see you in a few weeks. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Or adjourning into executive session. Motion.
Second.
Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.